All right. Welcome back, everybody, to a very special episode of Altcoin Daily. I am very thrilled to be live streaming with the one, the only Tone Vays, who is
Bitcoin trader,
Bitcoin bull, and how do I turn that off?
Thanks, guys. I just gotta find your YouTube channel and mute it.
Sorry, Tone.
That's all good. I'm a live streamer too. I know what it's like. There's a tab in there somewhere of your own YouTube channel that's now displaying it. It's all good, guys. Hey, glad to be on the show. Hearing good things about your show.
Thanks, Tone. Hey, Tone, how do we
go here? Go
this thing
and then mute this.
Yeah, you just gotta mute that video that's just already started playing.
Cool.
It's all good, guys. Hey, glad to be on the show. Hearing good things about your show.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Trying to
Hey, you got it. No. Oh, you guys muted Zoom. So basically what's happening is you guys have a tab with your YouTube channel that is playing the video on like a 5-second delay. So you just got to find that tab and either mute the video or close the tab. I'm sure you guys will get there. And now you're muted, so nobody can hear you.
I think we got it, Tone. Thank you so much.
Right.
You're a pro when it comes to live streaming.
We'll let everybody cycle in. I'm going to tweet about it.
Right. But so we're going to talk to you about Unconfiscatable, which is we're media partners for Unconfiscatable. That's surprising because our channel is called Altcoin Daily, but we're big Bitcoiners. I actually think I'm going to go on record right now and say I think Unconfiscatable either is right now or is going to be the top Bitcoin conference in America.
I'd love it. Those are the conferences I'm interested in.
We'll try to get there. I mean, we have a lot of competition. There is, and our conference isn't as advertised as many of the others. There's really, our advertising budget is literally zero. And our attendance is about, we'll break 200 people. We'll be about 200 to 30. It's not consensus. It's not even, Bitcoin 2020, but it's about the quality. And I've been to so many conferences. I'm sure you guys have been to a lot of conferences. And I see like we have, 85 speakers. And I'm like, good God, like give me a dozen good speakers. And that's a conference. We had more good speakers than we expected this year. And it was hard to fit everything into one day. So next year might be a 2-day event. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm. And is this conference more for no coiners? Is it more for, who's this conference for?
It's for people that want to understand the crypto ecosystem better. Because again, it's all about the speakers. There's no pay to play at this conference. I think the biggest, I guess my biggest responsibility for this conference, because I'm not the guy that's dealing with the venue. I'm not the guy that's signing that's like, figuring out how many chairs they're going to be, where they're going to sit. By the way, what you see behind me is the venue. Okay, this is our venue. This is where we're going to be for the next 3 days.
That's awesome.
That's our venue. It has like, a little bar right there on the side there. This is, lost the camera there for a second. Let me reconnect.
It's okay.
Hold on.
Got your nice profile pic. We also used that pic for the thumbnail of this video.
The only one we could find.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the camera back over here. So my biggest thing is quality to the audience. It's all about the quality. It's all about the panels. It's all about the speakers, who gets to do the keynote, the scheduling of the event. And that's what's important. It's important that the audience gets value. And we are going to live stream this conference, which will be free. We'll live stream it right on this YouTube channel. And that's what, and it's really for anyone that wants a better understanding of the ecosystem, because some of our speakers, one of the panels this year is going to be called, is like an OG panel. So we got people that have been in Bitcoin the longest from the ones that are at this conference. We have Trace Mayer, who was mining at like 3 cents. We have Adam Back, who's in the white paper and communicated with Satoshi before he even launched it. currently the CEO of Blockstream. We have Peter Todd, who's going to be on this panel. And Peter Todd was trying to create proof of work when he was 15 years old in email communications with Hal Finney. We have Max Kaiser, who was promoting Bitcoin when it was like less than $1 on RT. And this is going to be an awesome panel about how Bitcoin started and how it came about. And it's just hard to get these people in the same room. It's very difficult. We have some good developers that will talk about, what's going on with the code. And these are some of the smartest people in this space. And you want to listen to them. You don't want to listen to a guy like that has hype and media machines. Jimmy Song had a great article saying that the only thing that these altcoins are successful in is media and marketing. That's what drives them. In his article, he pointed out to Litecoin. Litecoin wasn't Charlie Lee's first attempt to create the silver to Bitcoin's gold. He did it before, and it totally failed. And then he regrouped, and he created Litecoin, which was pretty much identical to his prior attempt. But this time, the marketing angle around Litecoin succeeded. And that's what made Litecoin popular, and people still believe in it today. And but these are the people that never went to that path. These are the people that stayed in the world of Bitcoin because they knew where the technology was, they knew where the innovation was. And to me, these are the people that I want to learn from. So I'm putting people on stage that help me understand Bitcoin, and I'm hoping that's what other people are also interested in.
Well, speaking on that, what you said about Charlie Lee and then the panel you have, like that's one of the reasons me and my brother like tune into you, because you actually keep it real.
And we had no idea that, like, when we first got into this space, I didn't know there was a difference between Bitcoin or Dash or Litecoin or anything. I had no idea. And I tuned into your like crypto scams and everything. I'm like, oh, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that like these coins don't have fundamentals, but they don't even pump with fundamentals. It's just pure speculation, and it's
the marketing.
Yeah, it's the marketing. Yeah, that's what you were saying.
But yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, in today's stream, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about big picture type stuff. But if you'll indulge us, Tone, we want to
get to know you, because here's the thing. Before I ever tuned into, the first time I ever saw you was like a month after Bitcoin capitulated, the start of the new year, 2019. I remember your audience was really happy then because you were telling everybody Bitcoin is going down forever. And I think you got like thousands of dollars worth of live chats around that time. I was like, oh my God, like, who's this guy? But what was I saying?
You were, we didn't know who you were.
I didn't even know that you were a long-term Bitcoin bull before, because everybody just said, oh, Tone says Bitcoin's going to $1,000. I didn't even know that you liked Bitcoin, let alone could articulate its value proposition. So I feel like a lot of people don't know you.
Yeah. So
we want to start off with some like getting to know Tone questions, and then talk about
these might seem
Bitcoin.
A little simple, but first question, Tone, if we were to meet you in high school, what kind of kid were you in high school? What were you into?
Oh, good point. So in high school, it's hard to, I was always like a little bit different. I didn't have like a clique in high school. I had my high school friends, but most of my friends were more from my neighborhood, not necessarily from my high school.
This is Russia, right? Or Ukraine?
No, this was actually in Brooklyn.
Oh, cool.
I went to high school in Brooklyn. I left Russia just before that. And my friends were also pretty multicultural. Like I didn't stick with, once I came to America, I didn't like stick with the Russian crowd. I wanted to learn English pretty quickly. And I had friends, across all races and, religions. I was never one for, sticking with the same kind. But I was a little bit more of an athlete. I didn't have like the real size, I didn't look like an athlete, but I was a pretty good athlete. So a lot of my time was actually spent in the gym playing sports. Volleyball was my top sport, but I also tried out for like the baseball team in college. I played on the volleyball team a little bit. I definitely played in like high school. In college, it was a little bit trickier. I played all through intramurals. Even when I got into Bitcoin in 2015, I was still playing Division A, like club teams in the neighborhood in the area. So I stayed on my, try to stay as athletic as possible, which is why I'm still in good shape now that I'm hitting 40 here.
Nice.
And after school, same thing. I usually try to get my homework done in school, in the library and stuff, just so when I come home from school, I didn't have any homework to deal with, and I can just go and play sports, like in the schoolyards and stuff with my local friends. Like going to shoot pool. I was never a smoker, was never a big, drinker, wasn't a big partier. In high school and in college, I wasn't like the smartest student, but I was pretty dependable. So my thing was, I didn't cut school. I didn't cut class. It was so rare. I wanted to be there. I felt like if I'm not in the classroom, I'm missing something. So I was always dependable, and that skill transitioned really well when I got my Wall Street job, in that I wasn't the best developer, wasn't the smartest guy. I thought I did okay. But the one thing that kept me always from getting fired is that I was dependable. I was never late. I stuck around. I never snuck out early. I never showed up to work late. And I was always there. Like, I didn't like take an hour to lunch and go eat with a bunch of people. I would be, you know what, I'm going to get ahead of the lunch crowd. Like, when you're working in New York City on Wall Street, everyone goes to lunch at the same time around noon or 1 p.m. And it's a nightmare. Everyone leaves their offices, giant lines. I'm like, you know what, screw that. I'm not doing this. I used to go get my lunch at 11 a.m. before anyone else. I come back. Just as I'm coming back, people are getting ready to go to lunch. I would eat my food real quick. Everyone leaves during lunch. I have the office to myself. I can get some work done in peace. Everyone else comes back. They all go to the kitchen. I'm getting my work done. Then in the afternoon, when they're all sitting back at their desks at 2 p.m., I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back out. I'm going to go get a snack. I'm going to relax. So I was always doing stuff that like weren't conventional, even back then. And then I got into Bitcoin while on Wall Street. And then you start telling all the people at your office, the PhDs, the finance guys, and they all making fun of you. And not so much these days, but at the time,
All right.
that's how it was.
That's awesome. So you're a quiet, athletic type in high school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you always want to be a trader?
No, that came in a lot later. So in my university, I was actually started out as a geology major, which is a pretty difficult degree. People don't, what am I?
It's okay. It's
I don't
that
know why
Las
my camera
Vegas
keeps
heat.
cutting out. I know. There we go. Now, geology is actually a pretty challenging major. It's actually really hard. And in order to keep my GPA up, I kept taking math classes. So I had virtually like a math degree because I was pretty good at math, even though I didn't like it. I found it to be incredibly boring. So math never interested me, but like hard sciences did, like the geology, biology, chemistry, physics, not so much. And then I became a high school teacher, which is a horrible job with very crappy pay.
Oh, well, what'd you teach?
I mean, anything that I felt competency in. So I was teaching any kind of science. I was teaching any math, and I was teaching health in high school.
Did you get along with these kids, or like, did you have like a relate? Were you like pretty? I figured you'd be a cool teacher.
Yeah, cool teachers don't do very well.
All right.
So I was a pretty laid back teacher. I don't know if I call myself a cool teacher. I was a pretty laid back teacher where, like, look, if you don't want to do your homework, don't do your homework. I'm just going to fail you. Like it's, it doesn't really work. So after 1 year of high school teaching, that wasn't going to be my future. And a bunch of my undergrad friends did finance, and they ended up with pretty decent jobs in those early 2000s, coming out of the .com bubble. And I'm like, you know what? I want to make some money too. So I went to grad school, and I chose the major of financial engineering because I had the math background. The finance and stuff was very new to me, but I pulled it off. 2 years of grad school was not easy. Got my degree in financial engineering, and now I started looking for a job on Wall Street, but I had no work experience. So by not having any work experience, made it challenging. So I was actually a college professor for about 1.5 years with that master's degree. But now I was able to teach computer science. I was able to teach business classes. I was still able to teach, wasn't really teaching any science, but I was still able to teach math. So I was teaching those things in like universities, but not like a really, I like, you know, in New York, like these colleges that are mostly attended by GED students out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually got my Wall Street job. And while that was happening, so just as I finished university with my financial degree, my old undergrad roommate convinced me to go and take a technical analysis class. So basically the same TA classes that I teach now, he convinced me to go take it with him. And this is early 2000s. And this course cost me $8,000. I literally, all the money that I've had, all the money that I've saved. So I used all that money to take a TA class.
How did you know the Tom DeMark indicators would be the one that you just knew would work and gravitated to?
That came later. So I learned basic TA. I knew nothing about the Tom DeMark sequential and that. And this, I learned basic TA. We took 2 classes. That $8,000 covered 2 classes. It covered basic TA, and then we can choose an advanced trading class. And I chose an options class, and I fell in love with options. What happened with the Tom DeMark sequential and how I learned it is, ever since then, I learned TA, and then I was looking for a Wall Street job. So I literally had no money. So I had no money to actually trade on the stuff that I learned. I mean, Bitcoin wasn't there. You couldn't open a $200 account and start trading, right? You can do that now. Mm-hmm. But back then, you needed $25,000 to really compete as a trader, because without $25,000, you can't even sell your positions until the 3-day rule. Like the 3-day rule affects day traders. So it was very, very difficult to be a trader at that time for me. I did my best and I was still doing okay, but it was very challenging. When I got and we had a portfolio going, I got the Wall Street job. We had this options portfolio going that was doing really well. But when I got the Wall Street job, I wanted to make a career out of it. So I had to like put the trading to the side a little bit and focus on my Wall Street career, at least in the beginning. And then I brought trading back in. So while I was at Bear Stearns, I must have attended some some financial event, some like probably at the Bloomberg building. The Bloomberg building, they have a whole team.
Our next president, huh?
I doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah.
So at the Bloomberg building, they have a whole team of like trading analysts that teach workshops on trading and technical analysis. And you can attend those for free because I was working at JP Morgan or Bear Stearns, I don't remember at that time. So anyway, I attended one of them and I ended up on this proprietary list from a hedge fund trading desk. And the only thing they traded was Tom DeMark. And I didn't even know what it was. But I ended up on this email list where every day I would get like 10 notifications of all these assets that are hitting these 9s and 13s. And the trading desk is giving you ideas of how to trade it. And after reading these emails for a couple of years, I had a full understanding of how to trade Tom DeMark indicator the way this hedge fund traded it. And I don't know how I got on this list, but it was, but what happened was after I got on the list with Bear Stearns was going down. So I kind of emailed them and I'm like, hey guys, I'm about to lose this email account because Bear Stearns is about to go bankrupt. Can we temporarily move this to my personal email account? And then I'll reset it to my next corporate at JP Morgan. And they did because it was, everything was collapsing. And then I never emailed them back to put it back to corporate. So I was getting them in my personal email account for like the next 7 years. So I gamed the system a little bit there. And I always wanted to just quit my job and go full-time trading, especially with this resource. And by the time I did that, I still had this resource. I finally quit my job to be a full-time trader in 2015. I was already in the Bitcoin space, but it was fun. It was a hobby. It was, hey, I really want to start traveling. I started traveling late. Like you see me traveling all the time. I go to like 20, 30 countries a year now, but I didn't start traveling till I was in my 30s. Like, that's it. Like I left Russia when I was a little kid. And then I grew up like broke and on welfare originally with my family. I mean, I had no money. In college, I always had 2 jobs. In grad school, I had to work. After grad school, I was like, teaching every adjunct course I could get. I eventually got my Wall Street job that paid good money at first, but I immediately used that money to like live on my own and rent a nicer apartment.
Right.
I've been living on my own since pretty much 17 when I went away to college.
And Tone,
So
is
yeah.
was your family supportive? Like, of you going from Wall Street to Bitcoin? Do they get it?
They were a little concerned, but it worked out okay. I've made I've made some bad business decisions before. Like I do own a physical business. That was a horrible financial decision. Like
What'd
a
you
brick
sell?
and mortar. It's I'd rather not mention it.
Beanie Babies.
I still no, it's still functional. It's just cost me a lot of money, and it will never recoup the losses of the physical business that I don't really want to be involved in. Like I don't want to be involved in a physical business anymore. So that was
Right.
so there was definitely lots of mistakes that I made financially throughout the years. Trading was the only thing I could always fall back on. So my parents, for example, they were more supportive of me quitting and just becoming a full-time trader on my own than this whole Bitcoin thing. But that was it. Like I quit to be a trader, and I already started doing some public speaking, and I was already a guest on some YouTube channels. I quit my job in early 2015, which was the worst time to quit my job, because you realize real quick that all of a sudden, instead of using your $100,000+ salary to buy $250 Bitcoin, you have zero fiat income coming in, and you're trying to get your trading off the ground. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is stuck at $200 to $300 for the entire 2015 year. So during that year, bad financial choices were made. I also had to, use some of that Bitcoin for some businesses. And it was like the worst timing. Like it was like, I wish I didn't quit that job in 2015. I wish I quit that job in 2017. And I used my $140,000 or $150,000 income all throughout 2015 buying $250 Bitcoin instead of using the $250 Bitcoin to kind of keep my businesses and other interests all getting them off the ground. So that, look, that's a regrettable mistake. I'll never ever say I wish I got into Bitcoin earlier. We all wish we got into Bitcoin earlier, but that part is outside of your control. But quitting your job a little too early, going into a brick and mortar business while you're already in the Bitcoin space, like those mistakes could have and should have certainly been avoided in my case.
Well, we actually, bringing it back up to 2020, we actually, I like your TA, but I also like your fundamental analysis on why, you think Bitcoin is the most likely to succeed. And also your I love crypto scam. I love the one you just, really give us
talk real.
Yeah. Talk real.
And we have like specific questions for you about things happening in crypto. I have more of a big picture one right now. And Queens Races, will appreciate you, Queens. First one is what's like an obvious thing, and you might say there's more cryptos, but how has Bitcoin and crypto changed since 2015 to today, maybe besides the obvious stuff?
Look, honestly, the biggest change is people got corrupted by dollar signs that they can print. And to me, that's been the most disappointing part. Well, when I got into this space, like when I was watching this space in 2012 and 2013, and eventually got in 2013 by buying my first Satoshi, it wasn't until like 2015 when the people I looked up to, the people that I learned from, the people that got me into Bitcoin by watching them on YouTube and TV interviews, almost all of those people, one by one, became anti-Bitcoin and started supporting some funny money that either they're printing themselves or their friends are printing. I've watched a lot of these people, do things that force Bitcoin to be less decentralized, like force KYC on users. Like like that goes against what these people stand for.
I'm talking about Eric Voorhees on that one.
Well, Eric Voorhees is one of them. Roger Ver is another. I mean, even like Jeff Berwick in the early days was a Bitcoiner, and now he's everything but Bitcoin. Guys like Vinny Lingham, who I actually kind of like. I've met him a bunch of times, but straight up Bitcoiner, had that company Gift, but then goes out and you know, and makes Civic and creates his own coin and starts believing in Bitcoin Cash and Bcash. You know, a lot of these people. I mean, when Charlie Shrem came back from prison, and he started getting involved in this ICO stuff, thank God we talked him out of a lot of it. So I've watched like all these people that I really looked up to just turn away from Bitcoin and start doing things either within the Bitcoin ecosystem that I feel are doing more harm than good, promoting a lot of these altcoins, promoting a lot of the scams, and just, you know, not staying true to what Bitcoin is supposed to represent, or just straight up printing their own money, trying to convince, use their reputation from when they were Bitcoiners to try and sway you into buying their money printed creation. So I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest disappointment.
If I can follow up on that, like, so obviously just like there's over 5,000 altcoins on CoinMarketCap just today. There's probably way more. But from what I see, it seems like exchanges are only adding coins and there's only being like more coins created. It doesn't seem like altcoins are, you know, eventually they'll trend to zero, but it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, Jimmy Song has a very good article on his blog called Why Exchanges Delist Coins. So I strongly recommend it. I actually have his blog up. I can go to a screen share real quick for you guys.
Yeah, sure.
This is, of course, the conference. I'm sitting right here in the venue.
That's why Tone is here. Everybody who is in the Vegas area should head on over 20th through 23rd to Unconfiscatable.
How many more seats do you need filled, Tone?
We'll fill them right now.
I mean, we're still good for maybe 50 more seats at the conference. We have the capacity for maybe 50 more seats. And yeah, if you are in Vegas, you do get a low discount for locals. You get a 25% off. It's only $200 with that discount. It's a $250 conference. I couldn't go any cheaper. I mean, we tried. This is as cheap as we can make it for the community.
And if you go, please tell them Altcoin Daily sent you. If you heard about it from us, I want these guys to know.
Yeah, I mean, we got workshops, we got carnivory dinners, all that stuff does cost a little bit extra. You can just come to the after party and hang out with us. Probably cost you maybe $100 because there is open bar and some free food. So we can't let you in for free to the after party. But if you're in Vegas and you want to just come to the after party, reach out to us and $100, come to the after party, come hang out.
Now, will you be hanging out with only, like, obviously all the speakers are pretty much Bitcoin maximalists, but will you be hanging out with like new people, or are you just hanging out with Jimmy Song and your friends?
No, you see, that's a very good question. So I actually I don't like speaker only dinners. I don't. I go to all these conferences, I go to a speaker only dinner. I mean, it's great to be around your fellow speakers, but I try to be as accessible to my fans, to those that watch me on YouTube, to those that want to meet me as I can. I literally, as I travel the world, I tweet out, where I am. Hey, I'm going to hang out at this bar. And our speaker dinner is open to everyone, but for a cost. So the way we do it is our carnivory dinner is $200 because speakers are in for free. And those that want to come and sit with these speakers at the dinner are basically subsidizing the cost of those speakers being there for free. So the dinner is costing us maybe like $125 a person or something like that, but we have to cover all of the speakers and and also the conference organizers, and that cost gets subsidized by those that are willing to pay the $200 ticket price for this awesome dinner with almost all of the speakers will be there. And we're going to separate the speakers across all the tables.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
You get like, hey, I want to go sit at a table with Jimmy Song. We'll get there a little bit early, see which table Jimmy Song is sitting down in, and go sit next to him. That's how I like it. I like people to be, I mean, you're paying for this experience, and I want you to, have access to the speakers.
I totally agree. That's what you need to do. I don't know, in my opinion, and this applies to, I think, conferences and meetups, but also on crypto Twitter. It seems to me that although Bitcoin maximalists have, in my opinion, a lot of good ideas, sometimes these guys isolate themselves. Do you think that's a problem? That they're just like preaching to the choir almost?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that. And I very often do that. Like sometimes there's like, oh, all these speakers are going to go to dinner. And I say, hey, you know what? A bunch of my fans want to take me out to dinner. I'm going to go with them. I don't like the isolation, but at the same time,
do you think that's a problem?
I don't think it's a problem. I really don't. I mean, I do believe in like supply and demand, for example. There's a cost. So what we have is, I also, at the same time, I want to give speaker their space. So here's how like we do it here at Unconfiscatable. We have like a speaker green room. It's a room where the speakers can kind of get away, so that they're not always being mauled by people. And but if you buy a VIP ticket, which is significantly more expensive than a regular ticket, the regular ticket is cheap. If you want to spend the money on a VIP ticket, you have access to the VIP room. And that's the same room where the speakers kind of get away from the general public. But you have access to it. It's just going to cost you a little bit more money, right? Like the opportunity is there, but you have to be in the financial position to do it, because you can't have a free conference, right? If you have a free conference, then 10,000 people will sign up, and then nobody might come or everybody might come. And how do you plan for that?
Right. Another question I had, because I figured like you're the guy to ask for this stuff. Because if somebody asked me this, I wouldn't really know the answer. How important is Bitcoin Core, the main open source development team? How important is Bitcoin Core to Bitcoin, would you say?
I would say it is one of the 3 most important parts. And I wouldn't even choose between the parts. Oh, sorry. Let me just show this article by Jimmy Song, and then I'm going to cut screen share. So it was Why Exchanges Delist Coins. I strongly recommend people read it. It's a very, very good article. And it kind of describes how eventually a lot of these coins will go away because exchanges will not be willing to support them. So I felt that was a very good article. So back to, what was the question again?
How important is Bitcoin Core to Bitcoin?
So to me, Bitcoin's decentralization is broken up into 3 parts. So it's like a triangle. And each part is equally important. So, and each part in itself could face an element of centralization. But you have to realize that it's still a triangle. So even if one part of the triangle is fully centralized, that does not mean that Bitcoin is centralized. You need not only all 3 parts of the triangle to be centralized, you also need all 3 of those parts to be centralized independently and colluding with each other. Because even if you have 3 centralized points, if all 3 of them hate each other, you can still have a decentralized-ish system. Now, to me, each of the 3 parts of this triangle are fully decentralized. Now, one of those parts is Bitcoin Core development. Bitcoin Core development has an incredible amount of some of the smartest computer programmers that I've ever met. And I've met some ridiculous computer science programmers. Like, you have no idea. Like there are people on Wall Street that are literally paid $1 million to write C++ code. There's a reason they're being paid $1 million to write C++ code. They are some of the smartest computer programmers there are, because no other industry can pay a computer scientist the way Wall Street can. So people don't realize how smart those people are. And some of these Bitcoin Core developers are as smart as the people I run into on my days on Wall Street. So
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so, and most of these core developers, they're not even working for a company. Sure, a good chunk of them are being paid by Blockstream. Another chunk of them are being paid by Chaincode Labs. But other companies providing resources towards core development. And there are so many eyes looking at this code. This code is fully open source, and anyone can suggest ideas, and other core developers, either help make those ideas better, or they explain why they're no good. Now, what usually happens is someone comes into core development, suggests something like Bitcoin needs to add ZK snarks. And Bitcoin core developers look at it and they say, well, not really, because this is a problem and that's a problem, and you can't hard fork the code. So ZK snarks is not a good idea. And even if it was a good idea, it's not going to happen because you can't. And then the person gets upset and he gets mad and he says, I will prove you wrong. I'm going to go start a scam coin. And now we have Zcash, right? So this is how a lot of these things come about. But core development, I believe, is the key factor. The other two parts of the triangle are users running the code that the core developers release. So I run a node and I decide which Bitcoin my node accepts. That is a very critical part. If we needed, if we have 10, 20, 30,000 of these nodes, full nodes, that's spread around the world globally, that becomes a very decentralized second point of the triangle. And the third point of the triangle is mining. That is also a very critical component, but miners are paid to do. They're not really paid to think. They're not like that whole, the miners are more like a hammer. Hey, we know you invested millions of dollars into this mining ecosystem, and the core developers and the node operators understand that mining is a very critical component. I mean, this is why Bitcoin burns so much electricity. And if mining is weak, then the Bitcoin ecosystem might die. So the other two parts understand that miners need to be, fed. They need to be fed with value. They need to be fed with rewards. But when miners try to centralize the system to make more money at the expense of decentralization, the users told the miners to go screw themselves with a user-activated soft fork. And it created huge hostility between the users and the miners, to the point where the users were willing to destroy the miners with a proof of work change, rendering their billion-dollar operation a paperweight. So hopefully the miners will get the trust back of the users if they don't do something else again, like try to create big blocks. So mining is important, and mining will be there. And I believe mining is decentralized, but others disagree.
We were just reminded this week with the CEO of Ripple trying to accuse China as being centralized. But I like what Turdemeester was tweeting out, just reminding everybody about the 2x thing back in the day, because people forget that history really easy, or they weren't around in the middle of 2017.
Right. So the guy that's running the most centralized cryptocurrency project in the world is saying that mining is centralized. Right.
Right.
So to me, mining is pretty decentralized. I mean, just because China at one point 5 years ago had the majority of the mining doesn't mean that it does today. In fact, I know that it doesn't. Just because some guy in China is running a mining pool, that anyone on that pool is welcome to leave at any second and join another pool doesn't mean Bitcoin is centralized. And that's the other problem. That's what I said. Even if mining was centralized, even if there was, a single pool running mining, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is centralized.
That's just one out of the three.
That's just one out of the three. Even if mining was fully centralized, sure, it's not good, but that doesn't mean that Bitcoin failed. Because the moment that miner, and this won't even happen, but the moment that miner tries to do something that's malicious to the Bitcoin system, all the nodes will render that miner a paperweight. They'll change proof of work. And I don't think that's going to happen anyway. Even if you have, 3 or 4 pools, they still can't collude with each other. Otherwise, the value of Bitcoin goes to zero. In fact, the value of all cryptocurrency goes to zero. And that's the other part that people don't understand, that if Bitcoin fails, why would anyone trust any other coin with store of value property?
I agree.
Right? So if Bitcoin fails, every currency in crypto space becomes like the Venezuelan bolivar. The moment you get it, you want to get rid of it because it'll can fail at any time.
Well, let me ask you something about that. Speaking of like altcoins failing, we just saw last week or this week, IOTA proved itself to be a centralized database. But the funny thing is, the price of IOTA didn't drop 1 iota. In fact, it's up 5% today. Like nothing. Why do you, it's not based on fundamentals at all? It's kind of weird.
No, it's funny. And we do have, and during this conference, we are going to do the Scammy Awards, something that I
voted
I
on
heard,
some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And I voted for IOTA, and Ripple is crushing it. Ripple is still like the most centralized, decentralized blockchain. I really thought IOTA would win because of what happened this week. IOTA wasn't even going to be in the running originally. It was going to be others. We had to remove Ethereum from that poll because Steemit decided to sell itself to Tron. So we had to add Steemit in there. And Ripple is not even a blockchain, but I had to put Ripple in there, and Ripple is winning. So like, man.
It seems like once retail gets back in, you know, if they do this year, next year, whenever that happens, it'll be these companies like XRP or Ripple and like Tron who are going to pump the hardest because, as you said, it's these companies with the huge marketing teams. And it seems like with Tron buying Steemit and everything, they have no end to the money that they're printing. I just feel like once retail come in, they're gonna.
That's true, and this is concerning, right? Like what you're seeing with IOTA, this is concerning because to me, Bitcoin cannot go to the next level of human evolution, of financial global adoption, you know, saving the world with politically neutral money. Bitcoin cannot do that if things like IOTA goes up in price when they prove that they're a centralized database that shouldn't even have a coin to begin with. So now that I'm seeing Bitcoin rising, but altcoins are rising faster, all this tells me is that we are dealing with yet another bubble in Bitcoin. We're not ready for the S-curve adoption at all. And there's a great video on S-curve adoption from another person that helped me get into Bitcoin by watching him. And that was James D'Angelo. Back in the 2013 days, James D'Angelo had an awesome YouTube series called, I think it was called Blockchain 101 Blackboard or Bitcoin 101 Blackboard. I don't remember. But he had one video specifically talking about the S-curve. And I thought it was like one of my favorite videos from the 2013, 2014 days. And then, you know, by 2017, James D'Angelo is on this, on basically went anti-Bitcoin. Like,
really?
it just went off the rails. And yeah, so I don't think Bitcoin is ready for that S-curve when people are buying into Ripple, when they're buying into IOTA, when they're buying into Tezos and Tron. And
let me ask you something about
bothers me.
Because back in the 2017 bubble, what, like 1%, they say, of the world's population was involved. Nobody starts off a Bitcoin maximalist because they just don't understand. Eventually people will understand the argument, but even if they understand Bitcoin is king, the store value, they're still going to speculate. And since 99% of people weren't a part of that first bubble, it just seems to me that, like, you know, it's inevitable.
I mean, look, there's speculation, and then I guess I thought people were smarter, but it clearly shows that they're not. Like, people were speculating on .coms just because there was a .com in the name and it was trading on the NASDAQ. That did not come back. Like,
True.
But there was also regulation involved, right? Like, regulation really stepped up after the .com bubble, because you literally had scam companies trading all over NASDAQ. I don't believe you have that today. It's very difficult to go public with your stock. You got to now prove shit. There's regulatory compliance there. And look, I get called a statist a lot. Like, Tone loves regulation. Tone wants more regulation. And I always have to clarify what kind of regulation I want. I believe that the current regulation on soliciting other people's money is terrible. Meanwhile, it's not good enough. Like, I think that regulation really needs to come in and stop a lot of these ICOs. They need to stop people soliciting money from strangers and not having any responsibility of actually delivering. At the same time, I think the regulation on the consumer is also terrible. I hate the AML KYC laws. I hate the fact that they're more focusing on where I can invest than who I can invest with. I want the regulation on those soliciting my money to be more, but I want the regulation on me to put my money somewhere to be less. I don't want to be KYC'd left and right. That's the problem. Like, I don't want I want the user to have privacy, but not the one soliciting the user. The one soliciting the user should be under way heavier regulation. And that's a big problem in the crypto space, because those that are soliciting your money, those that are getting your Bitcoin, they're doing it without any regulation whatsoever. And that's how everyone's getting scammed by all of these projects.
So let's talk time frame. I think we've made the audience wait long enough. Let's talk time frame on some of these prices. I'll just talk, Bitcoin and Ethereum. How long do you think it'll take Ethereum to trend to zero? Because that's clearly not happening anytime soon.
It'll take a while, but Ethereum has lots of competition. Bitcoin doesn't really have competition. Bitcoin is actually providing competition for Ethereum with the Bitcoin liquid sidechain. You have Tron, you have Tezos coming out now, you have EOS, you have all these other platforms. And I think eventually Ethereum has to go that way. It may never trend to zero. The Ethereum token could be converted to the equity and the stock of the Ethereum corporation, which is what I think will ultimately happen. To me, Ethereum is not decentralized. It was never decentralized. Very disappointed in the statements by the SEC. But hey, when Ethereum prints $1 billion out of thin air and people are using that money to go and talk to the government agencies and convince them that, Ethereum is not actually what it is, that's what you get. You get complete misunderstanding of what Ethereum is and what it can do. You can't create your own full node in Ethereum. It's way too much data. You can't download it fast enough. Maybe if you have like some incredible internet connection and like an 8 terabyte hard drive, you can pull it off.
But it's getting harder and harder.
It's getting harder and harder. Ethereum just can't scale. They've admitted they can't scale. They're now building Ethereum 2.0. Is that ever going to come out? No idea.
It's supposed to come out this year.
It's supposed to come out every year.
Right. So look, there are a lot of people invested in Ethereum, so their vested interest for it to go up. But sooner or later, I mean, it'll fail. It will fail. Like there's and a lot sooner than fiat. Everyone is always waiting for the fiat currency collapse. The US dollar is going to fail. The US dollar is going to fail. People have died of old age waiting for the US dollar to fail. And I think US dollar is still doing just fine and it's got a long way to go. Not failing anytime soon. Ethereum, I wouldn't hold any value in Ethereum. If I had any Ethereum, someone gave me Ethereum, I would sell it immediately for US dollars or Bitcoin. I just don't think Ethereum, it'll be around, but the ultimate trend is going to be away from Bitcoin. Bitcoin will outperform any altcoin. You can name it. Sometimes I like to throw this, it's not, I wouldn't call it a prisoner's dilemma because it's an obvious choice. But if I said, hey guys, I will give you $1 million worth of Bitcoin right now, or any number, $2, $3, $5 million worth of Ethereum right now, but you can't touch it for 10 years. Which would you choose?
Obviously, Bitcoin. You don't need to tell us that.
The one with the fixed supply.
Right, exactly, right? So why in the world does anyone think that Ethereum has any long-term future, at least compared to Bitcoin, right? No one will take 5-to-1 in Ethereum value if they can't touch it for 10 years. Because in the back of their mind, they know that the chances of Ethereum lasting 10 more years are incredibly small. But Bitcoin lasting 10 more years, especially the kind of value that 1 million in Bitcoin will have in 10 years, is incredibly good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question, and you kind of addressed this, or your audience asked this question with your guest, Fib, or whatever. Philb on your show the other day. And it would be more, it would be easier to ask if you were a trader, but how has your mindset changed from what you learned in the last year going into this year? Any practical things?
As far as trading?
As far as trading, but since you don't trade
actively.
I'm not actively trading right now. So
I mean, it's not based on fundamentals, right? Because IOTA is still up 5%.
Look, it would be, even if I was actively trading, it's different for me, right? Like, I've been trading for 15 years on and off. You know, the last year I haven't really traded, the last year and a half even. There was also a stretch in late 2000s where I didn't trade, even though I was a profitable trader prior to that. But I wanted to focus on my Wall Street career. Maybe I should have just, you know, toughed it out being a trader from the start. My trading is pretty set in my ways. Like, if I plan to go back to trading next year, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm resurrecting my pre-2008 trading strategies, because they worked pre-2008, they worked during the collapse, and they're going to work when I bring them back. I have full confidence in that. So my trading, I need to get back to what I already know that works. So I don't really adjust much. I'm going to stick to my TD. I'm going to stick to my option spread trading. So for me, year after year, for me, it's more about consistency. And I've put in, you know, thousands of hours in the early 2000s, putting together trading strategies that I believe will still work today as good as they worked back then. So my trading would probably not be adjusted at all. So the only
not even with like fundamental, like looking at some other.
I don't trade. I don't really trade fundamentally, not even in the stock market, because my view. Also, we have to break down fundamental trading. Fundamental trading is not news trading. People confuse news events with fundamentals. The fundamentals, for me, I've done all the fundamental research in the crypto space. I've looked at dozens of white papers, and they're all horrible. To me, only Bitcoin is fundamentally sound. That's it.
That's the shortest white paper.
Exactly. The only other fundamentals that could be relevant is what Willy Woo does with, you know, analyzing on-chain volume and other on-chain metrics. But that's literally a full-time job. And the average person has no ability to do that. If you think you're doing fundamental analysis by reading CoinDesk, you're not. You're not. And the same thing is in the traditional stock market. If you think you are doing fundamental analysis by watching Bloomberg and CNBC, you're not. Fundamental analysis is reading, you know, the earnings report line by line. The fundamental analysis is sitting, you know, outside, you know, Home Depot and counting trucks and cars in the parking lot. That's fundamental analysis. You're not doing that. A hedge fund is doing that. They'll hire an intern and they'll go and stick them, you know, in a Home Depot parking lot because they're thinking about investing in Home Depot. That's his job. So I don't believe the average person has the ability to compete in the fundamental analysis game. All they can do is compete in the technical analysis and try to piggyback off of these guys that are doing fundamentals. So anyone that tells me I don't understand the fundamentals of something, that's ridiculous. I understand the fundamentals, and Bitcoin passes it, and everything else fails it. Outside of that, if you want to be a news trader, if you want to jump on news before another guy, if you want to interpret that news a little bit differently, that's great. Look, I didn't know about Plus token. Like, when I saw the Bitcoin price rising last year into June, when I thought it was unreasonable, I couldn't explain why Bitcoin is going up exponentially. Okay. In hindsight, Plus token had a lot to do with it. Also, in hindsight, the rotation out of altcoins had a lot to do with it. Didn't realize how illiquid the space was. So sure, these could be borderline fundamentals, But true fundamentals is understanding that Bitcoin is decentralized and everything else, it just isn't. It just isn't, guys. So for me personally, yeah, I could have done a better job calling the bottom and the run up from the $3,000 low. But people forget that I wasn't like screaming short and go bearish at 3,000. In fact, I was a buyer at 3,000. I felt that we had a high probability of going even lower, but I became a bear when the price of Bitcoin was like 17,000.
Right.
And
nobody thought it was going less than 6,000. You kept saying, I think it's going less than 6,000.
Right. So at 3,000, I started to buy. I just didn't think it was going to run up to 14. And I'm still a little concerned. I know like my friends that are doing on-chain volume, they're very bullish.
Right.
And I'm still a little concerned, and I'll stay concerned before the halving. People forget that it's one thing missing out on gains. It's another thing losing your life savings. And me being around traders for 15 years, like I mean, he doesn't watch my channel, but I mean, look, it's one thing missing some gains. It's another thing being a trader trading millions of dollars and spending, well, as of right now, your last 7 to 12 years being an exterminator in my building because your portfolio blew up. Okay, like that's what you want to avoid. Hope he's not watching because I really like the guy. But that's what happens. Like, so if you went in the wrong trade and it really ruined your life and your marriage, that's not worth it. You're better off missing out on a couple of gains and getting in a little bit late than have it completely ruin your life. And I've seen too many of those incidents. So I will never like back away from my comments. I will admit I didn't do the best of jobs calling the bottom, but I will always do the most responsible thing for my viewers. And missing out on some gains is not as bad as getting actually wrecked.
And that's why I like your channel. That's one of the reasons, because you keep it real. But speaking about the Bitcoin price, regarding your thoughts on the Bitcoin price. So the blog that you wrote, because I'm a big fan, I read your blog, at the beginning of the year when Bitcoin was around $6.9 thousand, you wrote, quote, I'm expecting Bitcoin price to spend the majority of the year below $10,000 and close out the year in the vicinity of $10,000. You also mentioned that you will become a bull when we close above $10,000. I don't know if you mentioned the time frame. Could you give us your new thoughts, or are they the same?
Sure. Well, obviously, Bitcoin has been spending a little bit of time above 10,000. So to me, there's no like single price entry. It's about how it gets there. We do need to go past the halving. So when I say I will become a bull above 10,000, like if Bitcoin spends the majority of the time between now and the halving in that $10,000 range, that's enough to make me a bull earlier. I will also be a bull if Bitcoin starts to rise fairly quickly from here. That also, I mean, I'm on the verge right now of potentially being a bull. But once again, the halving is coming. And I think we have a little bit of a halving pump. And I think there's going to be a pullback either right before the halving or right after the halving. So for me, the current situation is a little bit more bullish, obviously, than I expected. I don't mind turning bull. The moment the TA picture has me be fully bullish, I'll be fully bullish. And it's close. It's literally on the edge of me becoming fully bullish. I just got to get past that halving. Might be one more dip. Don't know how big it'll be. Probably is not going to go all the way down to 5,000. I think it could. Probably won't. But do I still think the majority of the year will be spent below 10,000 and we close the year around 10,000? Maybe ask me in a month or two and I'll walk away from that. I'm still leaning towards that, but ever so slightly. So I was probably 60-ish% certain of that view when I wrote it on like January 3rd. I'm now more like 51% leaning in that direction, as opposed to 60% leaning in that direction, right? And tomorrow I can flip it the other way. And that's what people don't realize about traders. Anything that I say about the price of Bitcoin is only as good as the last time I said it. Like anything I said about the price of Bitcoin a week ago no longer matters, because I've done videos since then, unless I didn't say that, right? Unless I didn't cover that topic. So my views on Tesla stock are only as good as the last time I covered Tesla stock. Anything I said about Tesla stock prior to the last time I mentioned Tesla stock is no longer relevant. It no longer counts. And that's what people don't understand about traders. If you don't change your mind, you're going to immediately lose. You're going to immediately lose. And trading is not easy. Trading is not easy. And if you think you can become a profitable trader by not actually studying and putting in the time and learning, you won't. I equate it to driving a car. Trying to think that you're going to be a profitable trader out of nowhere without actual someone teaching you something is like trying to drive a car or go in NASCAR without actually learning how to properly drive a car. It's about the same. Like how many people would survive driving if no one taught them how to drive? If you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go behind the wheel. I've never driven a car in my life. I've never read about driving a car. How hard can it be? I'm just going to go and do it. And that's what happens. I mean, gambling is the same way. Like, how good do you think you'll do in blackjack if you've never actually read about the game and you just decided to sit down and start playing? You won't do very well. So you gotta learn. I mean, you don't have to learn. You gotta learn from somewhere. You can learn it on your own. You can spend $0 learning. You can get a couple of books. You can probably download them for free. You don't have to spend money learning how to trade. But if you don't actually learn how to trade, you will lose and you have no shot. And even those that learn how to trade, the odds are still against you. Maybe 10% of those that properly learn how to trade actually succeed. It's not easy.
I love it. Did you have anything else we wanted? Was there anything from the audience? Only interesting questions, please.
There is no interesting questions thus far, but if you guys have any, feel free to post them down there.
But Tone, give us some final thoughts and please tell us more about Unconfiscatable. Here's the thing that I'll say. Anybody from our audience who's going to Unconfiscatable, because we've been plugging it for the past couple of weeks, please go up to Tone Vays and say, hey, I heard about you guys on Altcoin Daily. I'm glad to be here. Happy to learn. So please do that for Tone, and Tone, please take it away.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I am on Unconfiscatable now. I also want to plug the Financial Summit. This is an event for successful traders, high net worth individuals, hedge funds, and we did one of these in Bali, and it was absolutely incredible. Most people from that Bali event will be coming back, and it's a way to connect, young, profitable traders with hedge funds that could provide them resources like more trading capital or coding resources to automate their strategies. So that's another event you really want to check out.
Doesn't everybody just want to get all the big money, want to get partnered up with Willy Woo?
Well, not that easy. But yeah, I mean, if you want to spend some time with Willy Woo, Willy Woo has been very supportive of my events, and it's great. I mean, our paths have been crossing a lot more lately. He loved this event, and I quote Willy Woo, was the best event he's ever attended, the one that we put together in Bali. And for Bitcoin, if you want to learn how to use Bitcoin, understanding Bitcoin is another great event.
Is this for no coiners, or is this for people who've been here a while?
So this is an interesting event. So I organized this along with Adam Back and Giacomo Zucco, and it's a different concept because what I wanted was a better understanding on how to use Bitcoin. I want to know how to use privacy in Bitcoin. I want to run a node. I want to have a better understanding of how to use Lightning. So this event's been developed.
That's great.
With a specific goal in mind.
We need that.
All the speakers are developers, but they are speaking to the non-developer.
Okay.
And then the last day of the event is literally an open room, like this room, and the developers are going to be sitting at a desk, and you come with your laptop and ask for help with something.
Cool.
So it's really designed to help the average user how to learn how to properly use Bitcoin and not lose their Bitcoin or to protect their privacy from the developers that are actually building this stuff. So that's how it's designed. And of course, Unconfiscatable was the first conference I decided to organize, which is a general Bitcoin conference. And that's the byline: Bitcoin, not blockchain conference, and celebrity poker tournament, crypto celebrity, of course. We'll trying to get some of the notable names in the game. 0.1 Bitcoin entry fee is a little steep for many people, especially if they don't think they'll win. I made the final table last year out of 100 players.
It's fixed.
So
it's fixed.
That was, if I would have gone any further, ironically, hey, out of 100 people, guess what number I finished?
10?
Not 10, but
9.
The 9.
All right. That's awesome.
With my favorite trading tool being the TD
trading?
sequential.
Oh, the 9.
Okay,
I got you. Okay.
So that was cool. But yeah, hey guys, if you're in Vegas, it's a great event. A lot of access to the speakers. It's a small venue. We'll have about 250, maybe if we're lucky, 300 attendees, which is perfect. I don't like these giant conferences. It's going to be great. We have a pinball tournament at the Pinball Hall of Fame. And I got to pick out some, they have too many to choose from. And we got to select. It's just a great time.
It looks like so much fun, and so like just the different topics based on, last year, what you guys talked about. I assume it's the same type of broader picture topics.
It's the same type. I don't know if the new agenda is up yet. We're going to update it. This is still last year's agenda.
Right.
The new agenda will be very, very similar.
That was a great agenda last year. That's why, I watched the videos. I was like, wow, this is really good.
We have a very similar agenda this year. It was going to be up on this page any minute. Maybe I just have to refresh the page. Maybe it's already up. And yeah, it's going to be great. It'll be live streamed. I mean, if you can't make it, look, my view is this: 80 to 90% or more of everything I do is free. It's available for free. I don't even have a subscription service. I charge for a little bit extra, which is like my trading courses. That's it. All my other stuff is free. Like
that is actually admirable. That's true,
I started out doing consulting, and people still want to get me on a consulting call, and because they think there is some kind of secret knowledge that I have. And I'm like, look, don't waste money. Just watch my YouTube channel. There's nothing I can tell you in a private call that I don't already say publicly. We have a question. Someone is asking, do I purchase Bitcoin or do I dollar cost average? I haven't had a fiat job in years. I wish I had fiat income to dollar cost average. And I'm not a fan of KYC. It's just like with gold, back when I was, before I got into Bitcoin and I wanted to buy some gold coins, I wasn't, buying them with my credit card. I would go into a gold store and buy it in cash, because I wanted to, protect my value in an unconfiscatable way. That's why the conference is called Unconfiscatable. You can do the same with Bitcoin if you want to. And is dollar cost averaging a bad idea? No, of course not. Dollar cost averaging is great.
I think what that guy is getting at is, have you increased your HODL position at all this year or last year or anything?
I'd rather not answer that.
Cool.
You can
That's
take
fair.
your wild guess. I'm a Bitcoin believer. And the
IRS watches this channel, so
the answer should be obvious. But if I want the Bitcoin to remain unconfiscatable, I will plead the fifth on not answering the question.
That's fair. That's fair.
We did have one more question. Where do you see Bitcoin and blockchain in 5 years?
What the hell? That's a dumb question.
Well, blockchain. I would love to know Tone's thoughts on where do we see blockchain in 5 years?
Zero. He sees it as zero.
Well, to me, in 5 years, I think people will recognize that there's only one blockchain that matters, and that blockchain is Bitcoin. It will be the only public, decentralized blockchain, which is Bitcoin. The word blockchain was basically just made up because Bitcoin didn't suit the corporate purpose because it was, too unregulated. So the word blockchain just was made up. The word blockchain originally appeared in the code as a comment. The word blockchain is nowhere in the white paper, guys. It's not there. It was a comment. And Satoshi just used the word blockchain to describe how Bitcoin blocks get connected to each other. And he just said blockchain. In the original script of the white paper, or not even in the white paper, in the original Satoshi comments to people, he didn't even refer to it as a blockchain. He actually referred to it as a time chain because each block is every 10 minutes. So he had to choose, do I want to call this connection time chain, or do I want to call this connection blockchain? And he just went with blockchain. It was just an irrelevant term to describe how Bitcoin blocks are connected to each other on an average of 10 minutes. And people just ran away with this word. And now we have, all these blockchain projects. We have one internet today. We're going to have one blockchain, and it's going to be Bitcoin.
And I tend to agree with that. And I'm glad you're teaching that in Unconfiscatable. And that's something that we tried to, I consider myself a Bitcoin evangelist as well, even though our channel is called Altcoin Daily. But if you look into it, Bitcoin's the only one.
From a non-trader point of view, from just average people,
just like,
looking at the market,
in my opinion. But so I like the fact that, Bitcoin doesn't have a marketing team, but that's you, that's me, that's whoever wants to just talk about what actually has value.
And we started personal. Tone, we're going to let you go, but I want to end personal. What's a song on your playlist right now? What do you listen to?
Oh God. So the songs on my playlist are still the songs that I liked when I was in college, and most people associate to that songs. Look, I'm a fan of early 2000s R&B, early 2000s hip hop.
Name a song.
Or an artist.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot.
Like Dr. Dre and Eminem, or?
Nah, like some of the common songs.
Okay.
Oh, thoughtful rap.
So we can go with, oh man. I honestly, in the last 5 years, I've barely listened to any music, and that sucks. That's what happens when you get old and busy. This is why your parents don't seem to understand music. I just turn on the radio these days. Whatever's playing, I'll listen to it. But yeah, you gotta, man, you gotta go over to those songs. I mean, that's the stuff. Like one of these days, I'll take a break. Because I was a DJ back in my undergrad university.
Okay.
I was DJ Tone. So cool.
Okay, that explains it.
If you Google DJ Tone and Tone Vays, you'll see some of the CDs, because I put some of those pictures on Twitter a little while ago. So look, there's no single song. Some of the reggae stuff from early 2000 I was a big fan of. I can I can do a screen share. Hold on.
Okay,
this would be cool. Hold on, I'll show you guys. Let me open. This will be fun. Hold on one second. It's not all my music, but I have a little bit in my so here.
The audience is going crazy. They want to know.
Yeah.
There you go. So you can look at some of these titles.
Okay.
So so there's not that much on here. So this is
interesting.
So if I wanted to listen, if I'm on an airplane and I just want to, just relax, I'll turn on something like this,
Honestly, not what I would have thought, but quality music.
Yeah.
So there you go. So if we go over to the R&B section, I don't know, you'll get something like this. And it's not even all of it. I have 5,000-10,000 songs.
Oh, an Akon guy. Must be looking forward to his new crypto.
Yeah, people are asking me about that. But yeah, like not a lot of these I listen to, but it's just like what's currently in my computer.
Right.
So there you go. So this is the the Montel Jordan songs. So that's what.
So yeah, these were actually popular when we were like in high school and college and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
I'm a little older. I'm a little bit older than you guys. You know, the older reggaeton stuff was good. I used to DJ this all the time.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right, so there you go. So that's some of also the Latin stuff. You know, like salsa, merengue, bachata.
And to our audience, if you want to trade like Tone, it starts by listening to these songs. Okay, that's financial advice. LOL.
All right, guys, let me cut the screen share. So there you go. So there's some of the music in my computer, but I just got to go through it because like 3 computers since where all my hard drive is with all the songs.
Very cool.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on the stream today, Tone.
Hey guys, no, I had a great time. Happy to do it again one of these days.
Yeah, after the halving, when you can give us a hard prediction for end of the year.
Yeah, after the halving, I think the picture is going to be a lot clearer. I'm still, I'm still going to be very cautious, and up until the halving. After the halving, it should be much better.
Cool,
love it.
Appreciate you, Tone. We'll be watching the live stream maybe, or we'll be keeping tabs on the conference, and hopefully everybody from our audience is going.
And there will be a link in the description of this video.
There's a link right now to unconfiscatable.com.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Later.